Dillon Gabriel's 25.8 QBR is more than a stat, it's a crisis. And the longer Kevin Stefanski stands by him, the more fractured the Browns become. From offensive inconsistencies to shaken locker room confidence, Gabriel's continued presence under center is exposing the team to risks far beyond the scoreboard. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, an acclaimed college star drafted with long-term promise, sits idle.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His only explanation, a questionable back tightness claim. Teammates notice. Analysts notice. And most damningly, Tom Brady noticed. The feeling is growing that this isn't about football anymore. It's about pride, and it's costing the team. Morale can't survive in a system that punishes readiness and rewards stagnation. As the Browns spiral deeper into dysfunction, the message becomes toxic. Talent isn't enough if leadership refuses to change. Brady's frustration isn't personal, it's prophetic. If this continues, Cleveland won't just lose games. They'll lose players, credibility, and a shot at long-term success. Tom Brady didn't hold back. He didn't tiptoe around it. He flat out called out Kevin Stefanski, and the message was brutal. Stop letting ego ruin your football team. In the days following the Browns' matchup against the Jets, Brady's comments echoed louder than any box score. Not just because of who said them, but because they were dead on. Brady, a 7-time Super Bowl champion, a guy who knows how to win at the highest level, looked at the Browns and saw a team being run into the ground by pride and politics. And the target of his criticism? Head coach Kevin Stefanski, for refusing to even consider giving Shedeur Sanders a shot. And that's the core of this. Stefanski didn't just choose to ride with Dillon Gabriel. He chose to exclude Sanders entirely. No packages. No backup reps. No contingency plan. Instead, he pushed the narrative that Sanders wasn't available due to back tightness, a vague injury designation that no one, and I mean no one, is buying anymore. Why does that matter? Because Dillon Gabriel's performance hasn't just been underwhelming, it's been objectively terrible. Through 4 games, his quarterback rating sits at 25.8. That number alone is a red flag. But combine it with the fact that Sanders, a Heisman-winning college star with legitimate upside, hasn't even been considered as an option, and it turns from poor coaching to full-blown dysfunction. And that's what Brady pointed to. This isn't about player development. This isn't about system familiarity. This isn't even about performance. It's about ego. Because Shedeur Sanders wasn't Stefanski's pick. He was Andrew Berry's. The general manager, along with Browns ownership, reportedly drafted Sanders in the 5th round with a clear vision. Bring him in, groom him, and develop him as the future of the position. It was a calculated move, not a flyer. They believed in his talent. They saw what he did in college. And they saw something Stefanski didn't, or didn't want to see. That's where the politics come in. According to sources close to the team, Stefanski has never been fully on board with Sanders. The pick didn't fit his preferences. And from the start, he's kept Sanders at arm's length. Brady pointed out exactly what that kind of dynamic does to a team. When decisions start being made to protect reputations instead of improve performance, everything breaks down. And right now, that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland. The offense isn't just ineffective, it's uninspired. The team isn't just losing, they're unraveling. And it's all because the coaching staff is more focused on preserving their narrative than making the necessary changes to win. Sanders, for his part, has done everything right. He's stayed quiet. He's stayed focused. He hasn't complained publicly. He hasn't pushed back against the organization. He's done what he's supposed to do, stay ready. And despite reports confirming that he's healthy and eager to play, he keeps getting slapped with the same vague injury label and left inactive on game day. That sends a message. Not just to Sanders, but to the entire locker room. If you're a young player on that team, what are you supposed to think? That being ready, being talented, and being committed doesn't matter? That what matters is who drafted you, who supports you politically, and whether your presence is convenient for the people in power. That's not a winning culture. That's a fractured one. Brady's critique didn't just call out a coach, it called out a system. A system where personal pride outweighs performance. Where being right matters more than getting it right. And where the cost of those priorities is being paid by the players who actually show up ready to work. There's no reason Sanders shouldn't have been in the conversation weeks ago. Gabriel has shown what he's capable of. And it's not enough. It's not even close. There's no spark. No rhythm. No indication that he's turning a corner. And yet, Stefanski continues to back him, even as the losses pile up and the locker room loses faith. The longer this goes on, the worse it looks. Not just for the Browns, but for Stefanski himself. He's no longer just defending his starter, he's defending a narrative that doesn't make sense to anyone outside that building. And every game that passes without Sanders on the field adds fuel to the fire. Eventually, Sanders is going to get his chance. The writing's on the wall. Whether it comes from mounting media pressure, another bad loss, or a top-down decision from ownership, it's inevitable. But by the time it happens, the damage might already be done. Because when that moment comes, it won't feel like a strategic move, it'll feel like a last resort. A move forced by circumstances, not confidence. And Sanders will be thrown into a storm he didn't create, with expectations sky-high and support lukewarm at best. That's not how you set a quarterback up for success. That's how you set him up to fail. And when that happens, guess who'll take the heat? Not the coach who stalled the decision. Not the system that froze him out. The player. The rookie. The guy who was told to wait his turn, only to be handed the wheel once the car was already on fire. That's why Brady's warning matters. Because this isn't just about one bad decision. It's about a pattern of behavior that puts ego before excellence. A mindset that chooses control over accountability. And that kind of leadership doesn't just lose games. It corrodes everything it touches. The Browns aren't suffering because they lack talent. They're suffering because they lack clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about how to lead. Clarity about when to move on from a plan that isn't working. And until someone steps in and forces a change, that confusion is going to keep costing them, on the field and off it. Shedeur Sanders deserves a shot. Not because of hype. Not because of headlines. Because he was drafted to play football. Because he has the tools. Because he's ready. And because continuing to keep him sidelined for political reasons is not just unjustifiable, it's sabotage. So what now? The team is slipping. The locker room is tense. The fans are watching. And the most respected quarterback of all time just put your dysfunction on blast. If that's not a signal to wake up and make the change, what is? Let us know your thoughts. Should Sanders already be starting? Has Stefanski dug himself into a hole he can't climb out of? And how long can the Browns let pride dictate their future? Hit the like button if you're done with the excuses, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you're here when the moment finally comes, because whether they like it or not, the Browns are running out of ways to avoid it. There's a fine line between standing by your decisions and refusing to evolve, and Kevin Stefanski has crossed it. By continuing to sideline Shedeur Sanders, even as Dillon Gabriel drags the Browns' offense into the ground, Stefanski has made it abundantly clear, this isn't about football. It's about ego. And now that Tom Brady has weighed in, that ego is being exposed under the brightest spotlight in the NFL. Let's be clear, this is no longer just a quarterback debate. This is a full-on leadership crisis. Brady didn't just question Stefanski's judgment, he questioned his motives. When one of the most respected, decorated quarterbacks in NFL history says your coaching decisions are being driven by pride, not performance, it's not just criticism. It's a statement about your entire culture. And the worst part? Brady's not saying anything Browns fans don't already know. Because everyone watching these games can see it, this team is stuck. Not for lack of talent. Not because the roster is weak. But because their head coach is too proud to admit the obvious. Dillon Gabriel is not getting it done, and Shedeur Sanders deserves a shot. 4 games in, Gabriel has delivered a QBR of 25.8. That's not just a cold streak. That's unsalvageable. That's backup-tier production on a team pretending to be in contention. And yet, week after week, Stefanski keeps rolling him out like it's 2020 and the tape doesn't exist. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, Heisman winner, 5th-round draft pick, praised by the front office, healthy, and mentally prepared, is stuck watching from the sidelines with the most transparent excuse in sports: back tightness. And let's not dance around it. That excuse has lost all credibility. There's no evidence that Sanders is dealing with anything physical. Sources inside the organization have said he's been ready. Football experts have reviewed practice reports, interviews, and sideline footage. Nothing suggests an actual injury. What it does suggest is a coaching staff running interference. A staff that doesn't want to deal with the fallout of putting Sanders in and potentially watching him succeed. Because if Sanders does succeed, it blows the lid off everything Stefanski has been doing. It proves that they sat on a winning hand while the offense floundered. It proves that the front office's vision, drafting Sanders, grooming him for a bigger role, was right. And it proves that the coaching staff wasn't just wrong. They were stubborn and afraid to be proven wrong. That's what Brady was really saying. That this isn't a team issue, it's a Stefanski issue. A coach so tied to his narrative, so unwilling to concede control, that he's now putting his job, his locker room, and his players in jeopardy. And it shows. The offense is flat. The receivers are visibly frustrated. The offensive line is taking the heat for a quarterback who holds the ball too long and misses reads. The defense is exhausted from constantly being put back on the field. And through all of it, Shedeur Sanders stands on the sideline, helmet in hand, wondering what else he has to prove just to be considered. It's disrespectful. Not just to Sanders, but to the fans. To the front office. To the sport. Because this isn't about giving a rookie too much too soon. This is about not giving him anything at all, despite overwhelming evidence that the current plan is broken. What's worse is how predictable this situation has become. Because you can already see the next few chapters playing out. If Gabriel keeps underperforming, and let's be honest, there's no indication that's changing, then the pressure to play Sanders is going to grow louder by the day. The media will turn up the heat. Former players will speak out. Fans will demand a change. And when that tipping point comes, Stefanski will put Sanders in. But it won't be a moment of clarity. It won't be a confident shift. It'll be a reluctant pivot. A move made too late, under pressure, and without full support. And that's the problem. Because by the time Sanders gets his shot, it won't be about development anymore. It'll be about desperation. And that's not the environment you want to throw a rookie into. That's not how you build a foundation. That's how you burn it down. And when that moment comes, and it will come, don't be surprised if Sanders plays well. Because the people who've seen him practice say he's ready. The people who scouted him saw this coming. The only people who don't seem to believe in him are the ones in charge of playing time. And if he does light it up, the fallout will be massive. Because the fans will start asking the question that's been lingering under the surface all along. Why did this take so long? Why did the team wait until the season was slipping away? Why did the coaching staff use an injury excuse that everyone knew wasn't real? Why did it take Tom Brady calling them out on national television for someone to finally take accountability? And that's where things get dangerous for Stefanski. Because this isn't a simple quarterback controversy anymore. This is about organizational trust. And when that breaks, when the players stop believing the coach has their best interests in mind, it's almost impossible to repair. You think players don't notice what's going on? They see Sanders putting in the work. They know he's healthy. They know what's happening isn't about football, it's about politics. And when players stop believing that effort leads to opportunity, you lose them. And when you lose the locker room, that's it. This whole situation could have been avoided. All Stefanski had to do was be flexible, open-minded, willing to adapt. But instead, he's made this a personal battle. And the irony? He's losing it. Because no matter how long he delays, Sanders is going to get his shot. That's already in motion. The question now is whether it comes soon enough to matter. And if it doesn't, if the Browns continue to spiral while the coaching staff clings to a clearly flawed plan, then it won't just be Sanders' development that suffers. It'll be the whole team, the whole season, and possibly Stefanski's job. That's the cost of ego. And Tom Brady wasn't afraid to say it. So here we are. 4 games in. One clearly struggling starter. One overlooked rookie. A fractured locker room. A frustrated fan base. A front office caught in the crossfire. And a legendary quarterback calling out the dysfunction for everyone to see. What's the endgame? Does Stefanski admit defeat and do what should have been done weeks ago? Or does he double down, watch the season unravel, and take the blame when it all collapses? The clock is ticking, and no amount of back tightness labels can cover that up. The truth is, this isn't just about football anymore. It's about credibility. Kevin Stefanski's refusal to even consider Shedeur Sanders for the Browns game against the Jets wasn't a tactical decision. It was a statement, a quiet, ego-driven declaration that said, "This is my team, my quarterback, my system, and I'd rather go down defending it than admit someone else might have been right." But now, with Tom Brady publicly calling it out, it's no longer just a quiet dysfunction. It's loud, it's national, it's undeniable, and it's completely unsustainable. Let's stop pretending the signs weren't there. Dillon Gabriel has been struggling since week 1. He's posted a QBR of 25.8 across 4 games, numbers that would get most quarterbacks benched by halftime, let alone handed the reins 4 weeks in a row. The offense looks broken. The timing is off. The rhythm isn't there. And the worst part? There's no urgency to fix it. That's the part that has players, fans, and analysts alike scratching their heads. Because it's not like the Browns don't have options. They do. One of them, in fact, is sitting right there on the bench. Drafted, healthy, ready, and completely ignored. Shedeur Sanders wasn't some undrafted rookie who just snuck into training camp. He was a Heisman winner, a college football star who thrived under pressure and played with poise beyond his years. The Browns drafted him in the 5th round for a reason. They believed in his potential. Andrew Berry believed. Ownership believed. The only person who didn't, and still doesn't, is the head coach. And now that disconnect is becoming a crisis. Because if your coach is openly defying the developmental path laid out by your GM and ownership, that's not just a personnel issue. That's a fracture. That's 2 visions clashing in real time, and the locker room stuck in the middle. Stefanski has drawn a line in the sand, and every week that Sanders stays inactive, that line gets deeper. Back tightness. That's the excuse. That's the story they're still trying to sell. That Sanders isn't playing because of back tightness. It's vague, convenient, and laughably transparent. You don't need insider sources to know it's not the truth. The reports say he's healthy. The practice videos show it. The way he carries himself says it. This isn't about his body. It's about politics. It's about control. And it's about fear. Because if Sanders comes in and outperforms Gabriel, even slightly, it destroys the story Stefanski's been telling himself all season. That his guy, his starter, his system were all fine. That he didn't make a mistake. That the plan was working. But it's not working. Everyone sees it. The numbers prove it. The players feel it. And now, with Tom Brady saying it out loud, the rest of the league is watching the Browns implode from within. Brady didn't have to say anything. He could have kept it neutral. Played the vet card. Said it takes time for rookies to develop. But he didn't. Because this isn't just another slow-starting rookie QB situation. This is organizational malpractice. Brady's comments made one thing crystal clear. This isn't how winning teams operate. Winning teams don't bury talent because it threatens someone's pride. Winning teams don't lie about injuries to avoid hard conversations. Winning teams don't let personal preference override performance-based decisions. And yet, here we are. Shedeur Sanders, by every metric, every indicator, every insider report, is ready. Ready to contribute. Ready to compete. Ready to lead. And instead of getting the chance to prove himself, he's being treated like a problem. It's not just disrespectful, it's destructive. Every day Sanders sits inactive under a flimsy excuse, the team sends a message to every player on that roster: performance doesn't matter. Politics does. And that's when things really start to fall apart. Because how do you hold players accountable in a system like that? How do you preach competition when it's clear some decisions are being made in back rooms, not on practice fields? How do you tell a team to fight for every snap when your coach is refusing to even evaluate the guy who might save the season? This is how trust erodes. This is how you lose the locker room. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how smart your playbook is or how talented your roster might be. The team checks out. Quietly. Collectively. Permanently. And here's the thing. This isn't just about Stefanski's job. It's bigger than that. Because even if Sanders eventually gets his shot, and even if he plays well, the stain of how this was handled won't fade. Every decision from this point forward will be scrutinized under the shadow of what came before. Every play will carry the weight of what could have been. And if Sanders doesn't perform immediately, the narrative flips again. The same coaching staff that refused to play him will use that as proof that they were right to keep him benched. That he wasn't ready. That they were justified. But let's be clear, they'll only be right by accident. Because this entire situation has been mishandled from the jump. You don't draft a quarterback with star potential and then treat him like a liability. You don't ignore a season's worth of warning signs just to protect your own ego. And you don't let dysfunction fester just because you're afraid of the optics of admitting you got it wrong. But that's exactly what Stefanski is doing. And Brady just put it on blast. So what now? Does Stefanski finally course correct? Does he pull the trigger, bench Gabriel, and give Sanders the opportunity he's earned? Or does he ride this out, let the season slip away, and hope that no one notices what's really happening? Spoiler, everyone already has. The fans see it. The locker room feels it. The media's dissecting it. And Tom Brady, of all people, just told the football world that the Browns aren't being led. They're being mismanaged. And if Stefanski doesn't act soon, he's not just going to lose the job. He's going to lose the narrative. The locker room. The chance to be taken seriously again. Because in the NFL, once you've been labeled the coach who played politics over performance, it sticks. And no back tightness excuse can cover that up. Let us know what you think. Should Stefanski have made the switch already? Is this salvageable? Or is the damage already done? Smash the like button if you're tired of the excuses, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you want every twist of this quarterback drama dissected with zero spin. Because if you think the story is over, it's only just getting started.